Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you are just harshly judging someone for a moral failing?
Oh, absolutely. Like all the time.
Right. Maybe it's, a coworker who cut some corners on a project or some public figure caught in a lie. You look at them and you just think, wow, they completely lack integrity.
Yeah, you just label it a fundamental character flaw.
Exactly. But then, a few weeks later, a close friend of yours, or, let's be honest, maybe even you yourself, ends up doing the exact same thing.
And then suddenly the narrative shifts. Right?
Totally. It's suddenly all about extenuating circumstances. You chalk it up to a complicated situation. For that coworker, it was a lack of morals, but for you or your friend, well, the context matters.
It really is the ultimate human double standard. I mean, we absolutely love rigid, universal rules for everyone else, but we demand these highly customized, context-specific exceptions for ourselves.
And the people in our immediate circle too, yeah. And so I bring this up right at the start because today we are taking a custom-tailored deep dive into exactly why you do that.
Yeah.
And I say you because we all do this. We're exploring the actual mechanics of our own hypocrisy today. But we aren't just going to sit here and guess at the psychology.
No, we actually have some really incredible data for this.
We do. We are grounding this entire conversation in a genuinely fascinating academic opinion paper. It was published recently in the Atlantic Journal by a researcher named Momen Ghazouani.
And it's titled The Architecture of Moral Inconsistency.
Right. And our mission today is to figure out, is this tendency to be, selective with our morals means humans are just fundamentally bad, selfish hypocrites? Or if there's a much deeper hidden architecture in human cognition that we can actually map out.
Which is why this is such a brilliant piece of philosophical investigation. I mean, the goal of this paper, and really our goal today, it isn't to point a finger and judge you for having double standards.
Right, no guilt trips here.
Exactly. The goal is to give you a shortcut to understanding the mechanical gears turning inside your own mind. We're going to break down how your brain actually weighs right.
And it is significantly more complex than just like a simple angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other.
Oh, way more complex.
Okay, let's unpack this from the very beginning. Because to understand why our moral compasses seem to just fluctuate wildly depending on the weather, we need to find the specific phenomenon the paper's looking at.
Right, the core puzzle.
Yeah. And Ghazouani calls it the Contextual Moral Alignment Paradox, or CMP. Now, I know the acronym is a bit of a mouthful, but the concept itself is incredibly relatable.
It really is. It's basically when you simultaneously endorse a strict moral principle like exploiting vulnerable workers is universally wrong.
Right. A rule you firmly believe in.
But then you turn around and express support for a specific person or a company or a politician that violates that exact principle.
You hold the rule, but you excuse the breaker of the rule.
Precisely. You are simultaneously holding two contradictory ideas in your head without your brain short-circuiting. You condemn the action in theory, but you endorse the agent committing the action in practice.
It's wild. And to make this concrete, the paper lays out 3 distinct, real-world theoretical examples, just to show how deeply ingrained this is in human behavior. Let's look at the first one, which they call the benefactor.
Okay, so imagine citizens of a country who loudly and genuinely condemn human rights abuses. They believe, fundamentally, that human rights are an absolute, non-negotiable baseline.
Like they really mean it. It's not just talk.
Exactly. But then their nation's leader implements a foreign policy that actively violates those same human rights abroad.
But there's a catch, right?
There's always a catch. That foreign policy brings massive economic benefits domestically. It lowers taxes, it creates jobs, boosts the economy.
And suddenly, you see citizens supporting the leader, saying things like, well, the world is a messy place, or they have to put our domestic interests first.
Right. They still claim to hate human rights abuses, but they give this specific leader a total pass.
And it is absolutely vital to pause and point out here that the paper, in our deep dive today, is looking at this purely as a theoretical model of human psychology. We're not taking sides, we're not endorsing this behavior, and we're not talking about any specific real-world political figures on the left or the right.
Absolutely not. We are just looking at the cognitive gymnastics that all humans naturally do. This framework applies universally, regardless of your politics.
So keeping that in mind, the author offers a second example, the corporation. Let's say you absolutely despise child labor. You think it's an unforgivable moral wrong.
As most people do.
Right. But then you find out the multinational company you work for uses suppliers who employ child labor in a distant country.
Ouch. Yeah.
But because this practice helps maintain the corporate profit margins that, pay your salary, fund your 401k, provide your health insurance, you suddenly find yourself softening your stance.
You start rationalizing it.
Yeah. You might say, well, market pressures are incredibly tough right now. Or that's just competitive reality in a globalized world.
You simply don't feel the same burning moral outrage you would feel if a rival company was caught doing the exact same thing.
Exactly. And the third case is the historical figure.
Right, so think of a modern scholar who views slavery as an absolute unforgivable evil. Yet this same scholar can spend their entire career studying and admiring historical figures who owned slaves.
They teach their works without harsh moral condemnation.
Yeah, usually citing the constraints of their time or just focusing solely on their intellectual contributions.
Okay, so I hear these three examples, and I just have to ask, is this just the moral equivalent of being on a strict diet, but deciding calories don't count on a Friday because you really want a donut?
That's a really fun way to look at it.
Like, the rule, you just consciously decide you want the cake and make up an excuse to cheat? Is that what's happening?
Well, what's fascinating here is that Ghazouani proves it is actually not a conscious cheat day.
Wait, really?
Yeah. If it were just you knowing the rule and deciding to consciously break it, that would just be simple hypocrisy. But the paradox is way deeper.
Okay, how so?
Well, you might think, oh, people just don't know the full story. They have incomplete information. But the paper shows that this paradox happens even when all factual information is completely available and held constant.
So it's not just people being uninformed.
No. And it also isn't just what philosophers call implicit consequentialism.
Which is just a fancy academic way of saying the ends justify the means, right?
Exactly. Implicit consequentialism is when you do a quick math problem in your head and consciously decide, I will accept this bad thing because the good outcome outweighs it.
But you're saying that's not what's happening.
The paper shows that's not what is happening at all. You aren't doing conscious math. This paradox tracks psychologically arbitrary factors. Your brain is actively distorting the numbers before you even consciously see them.
Wow. So it's not about the objective facts, it's about the context of the person doing the evaluating.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the actual machinery under the hood. If this isn't just a simple cognitive error, and it isn't a conscious excuse to eat the moral donut, what is causing our brains to automatically make these exceptions?
Right. What's the mechanism?
Yeah. And the paper introduces a mechanism called the Contextual Moral Valuation Framework, or CMV. And this is where the paper really clicked for me. The core idea is that moral judgment is not a simple application of universal rules.
No. Your brain doesn't just look at a rule book like a referee.
Instead, it runs an integration of 4 distinct dimensions.
That's right. I like to think of it like a massive mixing board in a music recording studio.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Right. So imagine your brain has this board with 4 main sliders. Depending on where these sliders are positioned,